Welcome to Parenthood Bites, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 83 of Parenthood Bites. Today we're joined by Lauren Fischetti, a career and life coach and a parent of 2 young kids. Lauren first joined us to share her path into tech and her transition into coaching. She returned on episode 77 to discuss how she successfully built and evolved her coaching practice. In this episode, she's back to talk to us about some common themes she hears from parents in tech, specifically moms in tech, along with practical advice on how to navigate them. Hi, Lauren. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I think in this episode, I really want to talk to you about, you've been a coach for a while. We've talked about that a little bit in the previous episodes, but I'd really love to just understand, as you've been having conversations with different parents, different folks in tech and stuff, what are some insights you've been seeing? Like, what are some, big challenges that you're seeing people experience today?
Yeah, totally. There's a lot, but I think to boil it down to a few things, I think the big overarching challenge, which I'm sure is like a universal, timeless challenge, is feeling torn between wanting to have a meaningful career and growing their career and wanting to be really present as a parent. And so that's the biggest one. And then there's like a lot of things that kind of fall under that. And so I think, like, unsurprisingly, a lot of folks are feeling really overwhelmed or drained or burned out just from doing so much, so much at work and at home and all of that. And I know we've talked about this before, but trying to live up to like somewhat of an impossible standard of being perfect at work, perfect at home, and giving kind of like 110% everywhere. And there's just a lot. So it's tiring. Kind of like in that same vein, a lot of folks have this feeling like they can just never catch up. Like they're always behind again at work and life. They're just like can never catch up. They're like on a treadmill or treading water. And then I think like 2 other interesting ones that I hear a lot of. This first one is kind of similar to the first one that I mentioned, but there's this feeling sometimes, it shows up in different ways, but it's this feeling of being torn between wanting to keep growing and pushing and challenging yourself in your career and wanting to like maybe not. And so it shows up in a lot of different ways. Some folks will be like, should I be thinking about it slowing down a little bit in my career, maybe taking on less challenging roles? Or often I'll speak with folks who are in roles that for whatever reasons are a little bit less challenging or pushing themselves. Maybe they've been in the same role for a while or whatever it is, and they're like, this is good. I like have a good enough job, I make good money, I am able to be available and with my kids, and I'm not working around the clock. But do I want to be pushing myself more? Like, should I be, or do I want to? So there's this, it shows up in a lot of different ways, but there's this tension around wanting to have a job with like balance and all of that, but then also wanting to keep growing your career and challenging yourself and kind of figuring out the right place on the spectrum. And of course, that changes over time as your kids are different ages and things like that. But that's a really interesting one. And then the other one that I see, and I know that I felt this one personally, and this is more like right after people become parents, or maybe in the first few months or a year or so, is this feeling of like, maybe I'm not good at my job anymore, or like just sort of like a loss of confidence. And I think, again, that comes from what we were talking about before, this feeling that we need to be like perfect, and being good at our jobs means working all the time. And when you have kids, especially a new baby or younger kids, you can't do that. And so then there's this question of like, well, am I actually not good at my job? anymore. And like maybe you are a little bit less focused because you have other things in your life. And so then it's like, I often see this like cycle almost where you, and I felt this myself, you start to lose confidence in yourself as a result of that. And then it sort of like spirals almost. So that's one that I felt personally. I see it a lot with my clients who are especially like newer moms or parents.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of things that really resonate with me where I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, and that. But how do you help people navigate, for example, like I want to be really there at work all the time, but I also want to be really present for my kids. And a lot of people, they may not have flexible hours or like harder. So how do you help them
Yeah.
kind of navigate through that?
Yeah, such a good question. And I think there's probably two main parts. The first one is getting really crystal clear about what actually matters most to them. So I think a lot of us never really know the answer to that. Like we're so much like, first you go to college and then you do this and then you do that and then that and then you go to grad school and then you become a manager, da da da.
Expectation, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And not only do you never stop to ask yourself, in some ways you become disconnected from yourself. You're like so used to going on this path, and there's nothing wrong with that path, but you're just kind of following it without really saying, well, what is actually important to me? And so the first step is getting really clear about what is actually important to you from a career perspective in your life. What do you actually need at work to thrive? What do you want? All of that. And like just reconnecting with what actually matters to you, because without that you can't make the trade-offs and prioritization that you need to make in order to find that balance like you said. And so coming out of that exercise or that kind of like exploration, some people will be like, I need a different type of job or I need to do something different, but others are like, okay, now I know what I need, and now the next step is to figure out like how do we get that. And so the next important thing is kind of like understanding the different beliefs and behaviors and mindsets that we have that keep us stuck, that drive us to overwork and overachieve, that make it hard to prioritize ourselves, that make us doubt ourselves. So, like, really understanding all those different patterns and beliefs and mindsets that we hold on to, and then working to overcome them or come up with different strategies and different ways of reframing things. And so, those two pieces allow you to better make the trade-offs, set the boundaries. As I said before, it's not like magic, right? But it's just like hard decision making, hard prioritization, hard boundaries. And so I've rambled a lot, but the summary is like you need to know what matters to you. And then you need to have the right like mindset and beliefs that allows you to feel confident in prioritizing those things.
And for what it's worth, I don't think it's rambling at all because I think a lot of times we don't even take the time to think about those things to process. Like it feels like,
Yeah.
hey, those things may be intuitive, but we
Yeah.
just don't do it. We don't even have
Yeah.
time to take a step back and be like, wait a minute, what is our right? Like we just
Yes.
think we know. And then it's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
it's like you're encouraging people to really take that step back and you're helping them really take the time to process that and figure
Yes.
out what that is, which I think we just don't do, especially in
Yeah.
our day to day.
Totally. And I think, you said we don't have the time. And it's so interesting, especially when I was working exclusively with moms, that would come up so often as like, I really want to do this, but I don't even have the time for coaching. So I'm not going to do it. And that is kind of the point. You don't have the time, but you have to give yourself permission to take that time. And whether it's working with a coach or some other way of sort of like creating the time, right? Because I think we have
Right.
this belief that someday things will be better and we'll find the time to answer these big questions, but it's like we never find it. We have to make it. And it's so much more helpful when you have like a person or a structure or something that kind of like forces you to make the time and guides you through actually doing the work.
Yeah, making that intentional time to do
Yeah.
it. Because
Yeah.
again, we can find the time. We can,
Yeah.
but life
Yeah.
goes on and things
Yeah.
go happen, and we're just like, we can't. But then
Totally.
having someone to say, hey, you need to really make room for that and also hold you accountable for it, I think is something
Yes.
that a lot of times, at least for me, I'm just like, it's fine. I don't,
Yeah.
and then before I know it, it's been a year or 2 years and I haven't held myself accountable for it, where
Yeah.
that's where you can really help with that. Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's neat. And then I think, like, you mentioned a lot of times people are like, okay, do I want to keep moving up in my career or not? And
Mm.
people struggle with that. It sounds like some of these exercises that you put into place can help them kind of figure that out and answer those questions too.
Yeah, yes, because it helps you get clear about what's important in your career, and your
Mhm.
life, and how you need to balance all those things. And then there's another part which I didn't touch on, but is helpful for that, which is we also work to create just a really clear vision and plan for your career and life. And so, so many of the people I work with feel, again, because it's like we're all on this path. It's nice in some ways, right? Because it makes it so that you don't have to think. But at a certain point, first you're an analyst, and then you're an associate, and then you go to grad school, and then you're this, and then you're a director, and then at a certain point, there's no more clear path. And then you're like, well, now what's next? And a lot of folks come to me and feel like I don't really feel like I'm in control of my career. Like I don't have a sense of like what I want, where I'm going. So kind of like pairing that with just getting really clear about what drives you, what motivates you, when you feel in flow, all of those things kind of come together to get some more clarity around like, okay, so if it's really important for me in 5 to 10 years to do X, what does that mean for right now?
Yeah, really helping you set that path for yourself, not
Yeah.
just what's kind of expected.
Yeah.
We can follow that path, and like you said, that's totally fine. But sometimes you do find yourself thinking like, maybe there's more. Maybe there's something else
Hmm.
out there. I think you mentioned last time where it was like, I don't have to wake up every day and dread what I do. I can
Right.
also enjoy it, but how do I do that? Like,
Yes.
what do I even enjoy doing? And I think that gets lost a lot of
Yes.
times.
Yes, exactly. Totally. So many of the folks I work with are asking exactly that. Like, is there something else? Is there more? Like, how did I get here? But then you're right. Like, we get very disconnected from what we actually like and want and need. And so then it becomes hard to figure out if I don't stay on this exact path, what else is even out there? What else might make me feel good?
Definitely. So, how do you think that, because you work with a lot of folks in tech as well, so how do you think the tech industry can better support working parents or just people in general that are going through a lot of these things?
Yeah. So I think there's obviously like so so many things. The tech industry is actually pretty good with parental leave, but I feel like having it be more balanced and encouraging both partners to take it, and obviously like flexible working arrangements and part-time and all of that. But I think the one that hits home the most for me, it touches back to what I said before about some of the trends that I've seen in talking with parents is I think it's really important to help parents in those first few months and that first year back or whatever it is, because it's such a seismic shift in everything. And you just like come back to work and are like, well, here I am. And everything's the same except for nothing's the same.
Right.
And so I think supporting parents through that transition is really, really important, whether it's coaching, trainings, workshops, whatever it is, but having more support for that phase, I think would be really helpful. Obviously, there's a lot of other things as well, but that's kind of like the one that I think I'm biased toward just from my own personal experience and from all the different parents that I've worked with and spoken with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I think also when you're a new parent, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, everything's different. But also, everybody else went through, every other parent went through this. I
Right.
shouldn't be the one that's like, oh my God, I'm special. I'm
Yeah.
no,
Yes.
but then you don't realize everybody else also struggled with it and
Yeah.
had to figure out a way to deal with it. So why not
Yes.
have, support on
Yes.
that because it is a real
Yes.
thing that everybody goes
Yes.
through.
Yeah, totally. There were a handful of other women who had babies. For some, it was their first, for some, it was their second, but like right around the same time as me. I knew they were there, right? But it was like peak COVID, we're all busy, blah, blah, blah. You assume you're the only one struggling. I would have loved having been part of a formal, even if it literally was just we get together every other week and like, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly actually what would have been best, but like just to not be alone in that and to, like you said, both to know that like other people are struggling, but also to know that people figure it out and here's what they do to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. Even if it's just building a little community for
Yeah.
yourself within the
Yes.
folks you work
Yes.
with, right? Just
Yes.
having a place to know, oh,
Yeah.
you also experienced that is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, I actually likened it to like there's, after you have a baby, often people will join moms groups, and that's very much like in the first few months, and you're talking about like all things early baby, so like sleeping and breastfeeding and whatever, but then it's almost like the mom's career group for when you return back to work. And you can navigate like all the things that you're dealing with in that return to work phase with other people who are also going through it and with other people who are ahead of you and have gone through it and come out on the other end.
Yeah, if nothing else, just hearing that, like, oh, I don't have to be so hard on myself to
Yeah.
breastfeed my child for this many months or
Yes.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? Just,
Yeah.
or like,
Totally.
oh, that explosive poop, that's normal. That's not,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
any of
Yeah.
those things would have
Yeah,
been
like I
helpful.
totally like I remember even just like an offhand comment from a friend that was like, "Oh yeah, I'm stopping pumping and we're like done with everything." And I was like, "Huh, noted."
Right, right. It's definitely one of those things where you're like, okay, I'm putting in this much time into it. Is that the normal? Should I be putting in more? Should I be whatever? But then after
Yeah,
talking to different moms, it's like, no, you do what's right for you. There is no
right.
normal. There is no right. But
Right.
then you're so ingrained to think like, oh my gosh, I need to sustain for at least 6 months or my kid is
Yes.
going to be screwed forever. And it's like, no,
Yeah. Yeah,
actually
yeah,
they're
yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. So what's a piece of advice that you would give to other parents in tech that are trying to balance a demanding career and have a family at the same time?
Yeah. So I think a few things, and this is probably repetitive to some of what we've already talked about, but like I think big picture advice is to like make sure you're really clear on what's actually important to you because so much of work, life, parenting, you're constantly making decisions about how you spend your time, what you do, how you do it, who you spend it with, all of that. And that's what makes us feel tired and overwhelmed and all those things. And so if you're not clear about what's actually like we all think we know what's important to us, right? You're like, I want to like do well at my job and raise my kids, but it's like getting layers below that to really understand what's important allows you to be smarter about how you make trade-offs and balance things and all of that. And then I think the other related things that I think are so important is also what we talked about before, just letting go of the illusion of doing it all or being perfect and accepting that it's not like you're lowering your standard. You're actually saying, I don't have to do it to 110% in whether it's parenting or at work. And so kind of like getting comfortable with letting go of the things, and this gets back to the first point, but like letting go of the things that don't matter, that aren't supporting the top priorities, whether it's your team's top priorities, your top priorities in getting promoted, your top priorities as a parent, whatever it is, getting comfortable letting go of those things that don't matter or like doing them to a much lesser standard or whatever it is. And then really just focusing on the most important things. Because I think it's in that trying to do it all and be it all that we just totally drive ourselves crazy. I think my bonus advice is to get support, whether it's unpaid, paid, both. We live in like a very sort of like isolate, like we're all in nuclear families and we're just doing it ourselves. And we often feel like something's wrong with us if we have to like pay for help for various things or get help from family, friends, whatever it is. And so I read this really great book about burnout. I think it's actually specifically about women's burnout. It's just called Unlocking the Stress Cycle. It's by two sisters, I think Amelia and something else, but their last name is Nagoski. And whole book, lots of great takeaways about fighting burnout, but their actual biggest takeaway is that like community and support are the most important thing. So stop trying to be perfect and stop trying to do it alone. That's my advice, kind of like boiled down.
Yeah, and that really addresses also a lot of the issues that we had talked about earlier. We need to take a moment to realize, like, hey, we don't need to be so hard on ourselves. And at the same time, getting help doesn't mean we suck, doesn't mean whatever.
Right.
It's just another tool to help us. Like I talk to my
Exactly.
kids and I'm like, hey, if you needed to go to tutoring, it doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're behind. It's just another tool. And then we find out
Exactly.
that like a lot of other kids are there too.
Yeah, totally. You're like, oh, you too? You too?
Exactly. So it's very
Yeah.
similar where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything negative about you. It's just, hey, I'm getting another tool. Good on me for recognizing that I could get
Yeah.
help from this and getting
Yeah.
that support.
I love that perspective of looking at help and support as a tool because I think you're right. We tend to look at it as I have some deficiency or weakness, and so therefore I needed help. But it's really more empowering. It's like I am choosing to get this tool or this support.
Yes, I'm identifying this and let me get that support. And it's like, good
Yeah.
on you for identifying and getting
Yeah.
that support now. Like we talked about, don't wait until you're fully burnt out to get
Totally.
support. It's like,
Totally.
how do we start
Totally.
recognizing those signs and things.
Yeah.
So super appreciate you taking time to talk to us again, Lauren. It was
Yeah.
very, very helpful, and hopefully folks will find a lot of help with this and reach out to you as they would like. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun to talk with you about all of this again. I really appreciate it.
Once again, if you'd like to see how Lauren can help you or your company, you can search for her on LinkedIn. That's Lauren Fischetti on LinkedIn. And we'll have a link to her LinkedIn profile in the show notes and on the website as well. Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bites. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbites.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, at parenthoodbites.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbites.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.